Today we are releasing the VSD Trend Trading System, October the 4th, 2023. We are going to go over the trading system rules in general, as well as the performance summaries going back 16 years, as well as some recent trades. This is the long signal, and I want to show you this to clarify the nature of the trading system signals and how simple a lot of trading systems are. And you can see here, this is still proprietary because value 5 is unknown and it is above the code that you see here up here. But it's a very simple strategy. It can trade between 9:31 and 16:14, which is Eastern Standard Time, in the traditional day trade session for Emini Nasdaq and Emini S&P and stock indexes in general. These will be input on the finished code. It'll be start time, finish time, so that could be adjusted. Don't trade on holiday function. We don't trade on holiday. This being one means we don't trade on any of the holidays in the list, and that list is updated each year. Entries today of date, no more than one. This will also be an input that can be updated. Value 5 is less than 0. We take long trades. Value 5 is proprietary, but we buy the next bar at the open of the day, plus value 4 on a stop. Value 4 is also proprietary, and that is basically really a resistance level that is also calculated up above this. And so that is the long signal. Let's go over the short signal next. It is the exact opposite. Here is the short signal. If the time is greater than 9:31 and time is less than 16:14, you can see there's no bias here. It trades all day long. We don't trade on a holiday. Common sense approach. Entries today of date is less than 1. Value 5 is greater than 0. Then we take short trades at the open minus value 2 stop. And value 5 is proprietary up here, like I said, just the same thing as the long trade. Value 2 is a support level. So we short at the support levels when this happens, and we go long at the resistance levels. So kind of contrary to what you might typically think of in a trading system. Oftentimes you want to buy at the support and sell at the resistance, but in this case it works very well to do the opposite of that. For the exit signal, we simply say set exit on close. This could probably be removed because we don't trade on holidays. Oftentimes in the past I've kept that in there because sometimes holidays end at 1300. And I wanted to back test to make sure it closed out the trade at the end of the day if the last bar of the day was not that time. But since we have the don't trade on holiday function, we don't really need that. But I oftentimes put that in there to close out any back tests that weren't considered for those holidays. But if the time is the last bar of the day session, we're using a custom session US stock, which is between 9:30 and 16:15. 9:30 to 16:15 is the traditional day session for the stock index futures. That has been expanded. The market used to close at 16:15 and then open from 16:30 to 1700, but now it just trades till 1700. But most of the volume ends towards the end of the day at 16:15, and so we keep the traditional day session. For the time window that we trade, we set the stop contract, so if you trade additional contracts, you don't have to change the stop loss. This stop loss will be an input on the finished code, and the profit target will also be an input on the finished code. And the Nasdaq, this is simply 100 points. 100 points here, and so this is how this is developed. The reason I shared this with you is the simplicity of trading systems. And it doesn't have to be complicated. The code doesn't have to be hard, and you don't have to be a great programmer to pick out market patterns and backtest strategies. Now for the 16-year backtest, this is going back to 2007, in January 2007, and you can look here. It didn't really become profitable until about 2017, 2018. A lot of the ranges here, I was looking back, 25, 30-point ranges on the day in the Nasdaq, and on a day like today, we're already at around 300 points on the day session, or actually on a 24-hour session is around 300 points, so 10 times that range. And so the relevancy for what we're trading is different when the ranges are that big. the dynamics of the market change when the range is 10 times bigger than it was in the past. And so I am including the time period though, so it's not terrible. It didn't necessarily fall apart during this time period. It went sideways, and so the relevancy since for the last 3, 5, 7 years is more critical. And so we're going to look at the last 3 to 5. We're going to look at the last 3 years and the last 7 years on this back test so that you can see the relevant time period. And here is the VSD Trender back test going back 7 years. You can see the average trade profit is boosted on this. It was $80, which is not much on the Nasdaq, but considering you have to consider historic volatility in ranges with current volatility in ranges. And so 80 is not great now. It would have been great in the past, but $192 is a good average trade profit. Going back 7 years, this is going back to October the 4th, 2016. And so one of the first numbers I always look at is average trade profit. I look at drawdown. I look at net profit as a percentage of drawdown. And so day trade strategies, those are some critical factors. And so 192, this does not include slippage and commission. And so there's a lot of room for slippage and commission in this. The final version will be in the portfolio calculator with slippage and commission. And even more relevant time period is the last 3 years. So let's go over the last 3 years, and you can see another boost in the average trade profit for this Nasdaq futures trading system. So going back 3 years, you see the average trade profit. Again, this is without slippage and commission, is $214. Again, 11,865 drawdown, which is good. And 609 net profit as a percentage of drawdown for 3 years. The equity curves look more volatile because you're zoomed in on it. Oftentimes when you zoom out, an equity curve might look like this, but when you zoom in, it gets a little more wiggly. And so you can see that in this setup. And so I want to also show you the long versus short trades. What I really like about this is the long versus short trades, because in the last 3 years they're about 38K on the short side to 31K on the long side. Going 7 years back, you can see the long trades right here. 64,355, 146 average trade profit, 12,000, almost $13,000 drawdown, while on the total net profit on the short trades is 94,700. Average trade profit is over $100 greater, and it's 76.45 drawdown, and you more than double the net profit as a percentage of drawdown. And so I wouldn't have thought that this strategy would work that way. And so we're selling as the market moves down and buying as the market moves up. And so it's hard to believe that anything would work this well on the short side. But I did find this pattern, and it's a very simple setup. And so I wanted to share this with you today. Let's go over some recent trades. Here are some recent trades. This setup does not use market internals. It just strictly uses Nasdaq futures data. And you can see a short trade right there. This was on September the 12th. This one worked. You can see the adverse excursion in this. You can see the long trade here, how it does this long trade. And then you have another short trade right here, which did pretty well. Not as much adverse excursion on that trade. And you can see, let's look at the most recent trades. There's no trades. It doesn't trade every day. So you see 4 days in a row it has not traded. You can see the last trade was on September the 28th, where it took a long trade. Market went against it, and then it hit its profit target up here. Here's a short trade where it started to go down in the favor of the trade, and then the market reversed and it was stopped out. So here's some more trades. It can trade the entire day, so it can get in at the very end of the day and then get out as well. Here's a long trade. Here's another short trade. Let's go over this. So this is a sample of what the trades look like. Buying as the market goes up, shorting as the market goes down. And for more information and how to subscribe to this strategy, you can visit the link in the description below for the VSD Trender trading system.